episode of Off the Cuff. I'm Roger Moore, this is Patrick Timms, and we're here at the 2022 International Trombone Festival. And we had a chance to catch up with one of the artists who's in town from New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's Mr. Delfeayo Marsalis, who happened to be one of my trombone instructors in my undergrad studies at the University of New Orleans, where his father was the Coca-Cola endowed chair of jazz. And that was many years ago, but now we have him in town, and we had an opportunity to pull him aside and just discuss some jazz trombone since we're here at the International Trombone Festival. So I'm gonna pass the buck to Mr. Timms. He's got some names of some jazz trombone players, and what we're dealing with the lineage of jazz trombone. A lot of times in private instruction, I try to get my jazz trombone students to start in the earlier periods, because many of them are not aware or familiar with some of the earlier style jazz trombone players. They usually start with where they are today. So we want to kind of give a jazz lineage, if you would, of where a young aspiring jazz trombonist should begin in terms of learning the jazz vocabulary and the jazz language on the trombone. So you have a few names that you wanted to mention to Delfeayo and kind of get his take on that?
Welcome to the podcast, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you so much for doing this. And we had come up with some names, and I'm just going to get your take on Tyree Glenn.
Yeah, Tyree Glenn, one of not only Duke Ellington's trombonists, but he spent a number of years with Louis Armstrong. And man, for me, he was known for almost never missing any notes. J.J. Johnson was a guy that we know. He had impeccable technique, but Tyree Glenn, and he had a big, fat, buttery sound. He played trombone and also vibes. And he just really, he is a great place to start, because he has all the crucial ingredients of being a performer. He, not only is his tone really nice and it's welcoming, and his articulation is perfect, but his ideas are very specific and precise. And it's good for a young student to learn things that are specific. A lot of times we're trying to win a note competition, and we don't worry about what is the actual statement being made. It's just, okay, how fast can you play? But man, Tyree Glenn, he always got right to the point of what it was. So.
And you actually had me transcribe a Tyree Glenn solo when I was in college. But I kind of make the parallel between Tyree Glenn and Al Gray. Because I think the one that you had me doing is ba-ba-doo-ba-da-ba, ba-bow, bo-beep-bo-beep-da-ba, shabba-doo-bee. And he had a very vocalistic approach. No, I was gonna say, because when you were speaking, Delfeayo, about the experience and the graciousness, it reminded me of the United House of Prayer Trombone Shoutbands, and that is the epitome of playing with emotion on the trombone. I mean, I think Wycliffe Gordon was the first person I heard talk about it, and it actually put me onto that, because I had no idea, coming from Little Rock, Arkansas. We didn't know anything about no United House of Prayer trombone shout bands, but that is where that's where it's at, and it resembles a lot of the show style HBCU marching bands, because that's the type of emotion and passion and aggression that they play with. But do you see any of that fitting in that? I mean, you know, of course, Tyree Glenn and all those guys didn't play in those kind of bands, but where do you think that falls in the whole scope of things, as far as jazz and jazz trombone playing? More like a New Orleans style type?
You mean specifically,
or just any of those shout bands? Yeah.
Well, look, you know, what was unique about jazz? First of all, the name jazz.
Right.
That was a connotation. What that denoted for the artist was black music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if not played by black people,
yeah,
it's that, and they would use another term. It's their music.
Right.
You got, let's look at it. You look at 1800, let's look at, 1850s or 1870s America.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking for an original American sound.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, Charles Ives is going to come along, and he does more of the military. He combines that with the orchestra. John Philip Sousa, who's actually Portuguese, but he came to America, Portuguese American. Mm-hmm. You have that sound. So now you got this sound that's emanating from the South, from the plantations, from the Africans, from the Negroes.
Yeah.
That's the unique sound. So from a marketing standpoint of view, they say, okay, we want to let you know that this is not in the tradition of Beethoven or Brahms. This is in another kind of thing. It's jazz.
Right.
So that's what he said. Now, all these terms we have, urban, R&B. There's always these terms we come up with to let people know kind of subliminally what it actually is. That's what jazz was. So it's like, okay, this is black folks music.
Right.
That Negro experience, the experience of the church, the song that you just sang, the Tyree Glenn, that's straight up from,
yeah.
Big wheel.
Right.
Everybody, I've heard a lot of people say that the tenor sax is closer to the human voice. I play tenor. I say it's the trombone.
It must be saturated.
Right, because I ain't never heard that. Yeah, I know it's a trombone for sure. Yeah.
Tenor has a wonderful range.
Yeah.
As far as the vocal quality. So, I would say that anything that really represents that uniqueness, that African sound, that African tradition, we can't say too much about that. Like almost all of the great things about American culture, it has roots in Africa.
Right.
And, what the challenge for the jazz artists today is that we don't have any emphasis on the importance of those elements. Now the things that are important are things that are the least important for us as human beings. So it might be certain kind of harmonic sophistication. But, when you get back to the older players, man, that was very important. Yeah. It was an important part of humanity.
Yeah.
And this is what, I think we're kind of missing the boat when we really want our students to be well educated and we want them to have this and that. They got to understand what is at the core of humanity and how do you bring that out in music.
Right.
That's what made Bach great. That's what made Beethoven great. Like really great artists, they have a certain pinpoint that they can touch humanity in their music. And the things that you mentioned, U-Hop, man, that's just and the great thing about U-Hop is that it's a community.
Right.
It's not this thing like so there's one or two guys that's soloing and everybody else is in a supportive role.
Yeah.
When they working together, it's just a beautiful.
It's like water, like the wave, like the ocean. It's not just stagnated in one place. It's an ebb and a flow. And then it comes. I listen to songs like,
man.
But it's like the black experience. It's like so much, and so much of the black experience has been defined by either the dominant culture or by our reaction or resistance to their nonsense. It's like a lot of that came from the motherland. It's like I have to always tell people, look, somebody made the foolish comment about, I can't even remember, but it was so foolish, about freedom and America gave people freedom or some kind of ridiculousness. And I said, first of all, the Africans were free before they got dragged to America. And let's be clear.
Yeah.
They weren't sitting around waiting to somebody to come and throw them in change. But a lot of that greatness is what we're trying to go back to. We're trying to go back to that sense of community that the Africans have. Our sense of community, a lot of times, especially here in the South, it has risen from, the resistance to the foolishness. It's like, the dominant culture and what the type of oppression that is constantly, it's on our backs all of the time. There's this thing that's always there. So now it's okay, we're going to have the church service. It's okay. Well, can we have the church service now? Are we going to do this? Can we do this now?
Yeah.
Or, you see, Greenwood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and all these examples of, folks minding their business. They have an opportunity. Maybe the black folks are building their wealth. Somebody doesn't like it. No, we got to burn them down. We got to lynch them. We got to kill them. And it's this same kind of mentality that it's tough to get around that. But at the core, man, black folk get together. It's something beautiful.
It is. Oh my God.